No.
Welcome to the Green Business Series sponsored by the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District, otherwise known as GoGreenDistrict.com, and the City of Bloomington's Department of Economic and Sustainable Development. Your co-hosts are myself, Elisa Pocrell, Community Outreach Coordinator with the Monroe County Waste Management District, and Lauren Travis, Assistant Director of the Department of Economic and Sustainable Development. This session will be recorded, and we thank you for participating. The purpose of each session is to help businesses reimagine, reframe, and redefine business using green strategies while cultivating capital, a healthy environment, and the goodwill of employees and customers. We wish to reach employees, employers, and active citizens who encourage and promote profitable business and environmental stewardship actions. People, planet, profit. This is the second session in a series of 8 free virtual programs. Please email sustain@bloomington.in.gov to register for other sessions. We have that information in the chat box. If unfamiliar with the chat box, look at the bottom part of your screen and click on the speech bubble that says chat. You can also leave messages or questions there. Everyone is muted. Let's hold questions for after each individual session. You will then need to unmute yourself. We will remind you, and that button is at the bottom left side of the screen. It's a little microphone icon. Today's topic is waste reduction in composting food waste on-site and off. And this is a topic of national concern. In Monroe County, a recent study had indicated that 40% of municipal waste is food waste, as well, up to 40% is food waste and including associated compostable items. Now, there are many options in dealing with food waste and keeping it out of your trash, whether a business or a household. And when you look into it, you see strong connections to water quality and climate change. Now, gaining new perspectives and using them and adapting them to our businesses as employees and employers is what life is all about. So today we will hear from Green Camino's owners, Andrea Koenigsberger and Ryan Conway, and Aver's Aver's Pizza co-owner, Bradley Randal. And they all know the value of waste materials. So let me introduce our first speakers, Andrea Koenigsberger and Ryan Conway. Andrea came to Indiana University to complete her PhD in the Cognitive Computational Neuroscience Lab. She is now an instructional technology developer at Indiana University and the managing editor of the journal Network Neuroscience. She is also a farmer and a composter. With 3 years as the board president of the Center for Sustainable Living, Andrea knows our community's sustainability concerns and is committed to reducing climate change, starting with reducing food waste. Now, Ryan came to Indiana University on a fellowship and joined the Ostrom workshop after becoming inspired by Eleanor Ostrom's Political Economics of the Commons, the things we share and care for together, like our climate and our soils. Ryan has brought his academic analytical skills to Bloomington, where he's conducted policy studies and advocacy campaigns for local food and sustainability efforts. With 3 years as the chair of the Bloomington Food Policy Council, Ryan has led local food system planning and policy change. And as a newly appointed Monroe County Soil and Water Conservation District Supervisor, Ryan takes soil and water quality seriously. As a recently retired member of the Bloomington Commission on Sustainability, he has helped craft the city's sustainability vision. Welcome, Andrea Koenigsberger and Ryan Conway.
Thank you.
Hi, folks. Thanks so much for having us. And thanks so much for coming here on your lunch breaks. As Elisa introduced, I'm Ryan Conway, and this is my wife, Andrea. And we want to give a shout out and a thank you to our family who has moved here from Texas to join us, and also to our business family, all our employees and all of our supporters, all of our clients, and then of course our special co-hosts here at the district, Elisa and Scott and Tom McGlasson, and then of course at the ESD in the city of Bloomington, Lauren for joining us today, and then Alex, who I know is always in the background. Y'all have been great supports in moving the compost movement forward here in Monroe County, Indiana. and certainly keep us inspired and moving forward. So, thanks for having us on today. And like I just mentioned too, I mean, compost is really exciting for us right now because it really has the quality of a movement, because it can be accessed by anyone. It is apolitical in nature, and in a period that seems kind of dark and divided, things that can cross the aisle and really reach everybody and that are good for everybody are really the kinds of stories of hope and inspiration and hope and transformation I think that all of us are hungry for, and I know that we certainly are. So that really is what drives us moving forward, not just because we love it and we find it to be magical and helpful for the earth, but we also see it bringing people together and bringing, creating community. So you heard a little bit about us. Like Andrea got to lead the Center for Sustainable Living here for several years and got a real solid grip on Monroe County's sustainability issues. I myself led the Bloomington Food Policy Council for about the same amount of time. So composting for us really fits into these core personal values and core community values that we've been kind of striving to cultivate here for, almost a decade. So really for us, the business and our business model is really an extension of the values that we've been promoting in the community for quite some time now. But it took some time to really understand the community and its needs and where we could help to make a difference and make an impact. And it turns out that organic waste diversion and compost creation was a great niche for us for that. It's really great that the slimiest, stinkiest, nastiest stuff that everyone just wants to get rid of, all the stuff that we're all kind of swimming in 2020, well, with time and love and attention, we can turn that stuff into the best, most rejuvenating, most healing soil amendments for ourselves and our land. I guess the best way to start is that we kind of fell into this by accident. When we got this farm, our little personal sustainability project, our jump from a life of community organizing around sustainability into trying to live and breathe it, we bought a farm that had one of Monroe County's very first greenhouses, or one of the very first high tunnel greenhouses in the county. And the problem was that it had been buttoned up for about 2 years, so the soil had turned hard as stone. We were not at all experienced farmers, maybe a little bit of growing experience, tomatoes and such at our apartments,
Pots.
and in pots and all these things outside. But we didn't know what to do with really compacted, hard pan soil. And so we started asking farmer friends that were around us, and they kept saying, oh, you need to just add tons of compost. I mean, that compost is really going to re-inoculate the soil, bring it back to life, get it a nice texture that you can start growing things. And we're like, awesome, great. Where do you get it? How much does it cost? Well, it turns out that they don't get it anywhere locally. They get it from Michigan or Wisconsin. And the price to ship it here costs just as much as the price of the compost itself. So as young aspiring farmers who had literally just broken the bank to get our farm here, and we didn't even have a lawnmower to tame the weeds yet, we knew that getting thousands of dollars of compost shipped here was not going to be a real feasible option for us then or in the long haul. And so when we started talking to other people about possible solutions, we realized that compost was really a need for gardeners and farmers all over the county. And so then we were like, okay, well, we have all this space. We don't have a concrete plan for the farm. We need this compost, and it seems to solve some problems. What would it take to really get into this and figure it out? And maybe we can start making some, not just for us and for our greenhouse, but for other people too. And then, of course, keeping in the background, our sustainability, vision and values, when we thought about making the business work along those values, what kept coming up to us is this concept of the sustainability tripod. And for those of you who are tuning in to see how to make your organizations or your businesses more in tune with this composting movement, applying the lens of the sustainability tripod is really going to get you far. It's going to get you far not just in composting, but in any other sustainability activity that you want to incorporate into your business, because that tripod is a framework around economic sustainability, ecological sustainability, and social equity sustainability. And so that's really what is always in the background driving us and motivating a lot of our business decisions. And that's something that any business or organization can really adapt and adopt for their own. So I'm going to get to that in a second, but I'm just going to tell you just a little bit more background of our journey here and how that really, the sustainability tripod was really factoring into so much of our decision making. So like I said, it was kind of an accident that we fell into this, and we realized that so many other growers and farmers could benefit from it. So we kept it up, and we decided to get serious about it and really invest a lot of time and energy and lots of study to this. And we started small. You know, we started with the tree trimmer that has his startup business just down the block, Neil's Tree. They would bring us loads of wood chips whenever they were done with jobs, because it was better for them that they didn't have to, you know, get charged someplace else to drop it off. And since we were neighbors, we're like, yeah, come drop it off anytime. In fact, we'll give you a carton of eggs every time you bring it by, because we were just getting started and growing our chicken flock, and it just felt like a fun neighborly kind of thing to cultivate that relationship. And at the same time, you know, the daughter of some old neighbors of ours from our old neighborhood had just opened a coffee shop, and we're like, well, we could help them divert that waste too. And coffee grounds are a great base for all sorts of compost. And so, you know, between the local tree trimmer and the local coffee shop, that was a great start. And we had friends, family, and neighbors that were willing to, you know, kick in their, you know, family food waste scraps. Gosh, who else did we have? Oh yeah, the sorority. We had a sorority be one of our very first clients.
Our first paying client.
Our first paying client was one of the big sororities on campus that was very like leadership and sustainability minded. So that was a real lift to us, and really kind of got us started off at like a middle tier of the collections realm, because we have like residential tiers, like commercial tiers, and then like corporate industrial tiers. So like jumping straight into a commercial tier was like, okay, well, we have farm infrastructure that can dual purpose as, you know, composting infrastructure. So things like our dump trailer instantly became useful for things like hauling manure or hauling wood chips. Or if we're trying to, you know, move lots of materials around from space to space. We already had a couple of trucks just for farm use and the farm-based stuff we were doing. So big trucks and dump trailers and other trailers, it fit for us to jump into that tier. So it was really nice to really kind of support other local businesses that were getting started, right as we ourselves were just kind of playing around with the idea. And it was around this time that we had the great fortune of meeting Rondi Cox, who happens to be present with us today.
Hi, Rondi.
And then also Kathy Gutowski, who was her business partner at the time. And they were really hungry to get into the residential market and start collecting people's home food waste and start driving impact and education there. So we worked out some deals, and we made it so that when Rondi and Kathy would come to the farm, we wouldn't make them pay. We'd let them dump the compost there, and we'd help with some of the other nuts and bolts logistics, you know, on the farm site related to the compost drop-off. But, you know, they had other opportunities come up in their lives, professional opportunities, and when it was time for them to want to move on, they made the proposal to us that we take over their business, which would be that portion of the business. So it really allowed us to vertically integrate in such a way that we now have, you know, a residential program. We have our commercial programs, and we also have community programs and corporate programs. So we have a lot going on now that's beyond just you know, commercial collections, or beyond just even residential collections. I mean, it spans all elements of the market, and it spans all sectors of the economy. Because, for example, City of Bloomington has been an amazing champion for helping to get us into office buildings and break rooms, including their own. We've had some stuff come up, of course, with COVID, and a lot of businesses haven't been able to stay with their composting programs because of COVID and all the challenges in terms of, you know, in-person dining or in-person even office work that COVID's presenting. But we are really very grateful for the City of Bloomington's support, and then also some of our earlier office clients like Envisage Technologies. So for us, when we were getting started in this, we knew that we really wanted to stay values oriented, which is why I keep touching on this sustainability tripod. And again, we'll get to fully cover that in a moment. But to just make sure that we were really doing this right and doing this well for the community, We also submitted ourselves to a week in residence 40-hour composting training. It was the U.S. Composting Council's U.S. Composting Council hosts a week-long compost facility operators certification training course. It was very time-consuming and expensive, and we brought our wonderful dog who completed the course with us and even rode on the bus. But it taught us so much about what the compost movement is, what the compost industry is, different segments of the markets, different methods of doing composting efficiently at different scales. Some types that require machines, some types that require flocks of chickens, some types that just require, a little tiny Kubota tractor like the lovely little one that we have here. That composting course really gave us the industry standard basis of knowledge and technique that now we can bring back into our community. And with the educational component being such a pivotal component in driving this movement forward, getting that education solidly for ourselves was just a real platform, because believe it or not, there's only a handful of people in the whole state of Indiana that have that certification. So that's also led to some other educational opportunities for us to pursue in the community, like developing our consultancy program, both for other composting operations and also for commercial sites and residences. But again, I'll get into that in just a moment. Oh, and also, as Elisa mentioned, I had the great honor last year of being appointed by the state of Indiana as a soil and water conservation supervisor for our local district here in Monroe County. So that's been an extra boost in our soil science knowledge, and also our desire to really get in there and help our county's soil system.
Andrea and Ryan, could you talk about how the district partnership works with your business, with your operation?
Absolutely. So the district partnership is really one of our key flagship partnerships on the educational and residential side of the composting movement, because the district partnership allows us to reach out to the entire county, not only through educational seminars and webinars like this, but also through the day-to-day boots on the ground, so to speak, composting activity that can now be done at all of the district recycling sites. And so clients or interested clients have the opportunity to sign up with us through our website, and then they can go to any of the district's recycling centers, and they can use our drop-off sites there. So that really helps to ingrain this idea that composting it's an extension of recycling, and not just an extension of recycling, but a new type of recycling that we really need to get right and really can do better, and can really pay good dividends for the city of Bloomington and for the Monroe County community. So really, I think that our partnership with the district also ties things in with the sustainability tripod very well, because it gets to our whole understanding about social impacts, sustainable social impacts. Because I'll get to the sustainability tripod now. To have a truly sustainable organization, a sustainable venture, sustainable business, using a sustainability tripod framework, you need to break it up into three components, three lenses by which you analyze your operations. Is it ecologically sustainable? Is it economically sustainable? And is it socially sustainable? Now, on the ecologically sustainable side of things, you have to consider, what are my impacts on the environment? Well, for us, we're really excited about the composting movement and our composting business, because it helps to reduce emissions from landfills, and it also helps to prevent a lot of the food waste runoff that goes from landfills into getting into the water table. So we're instantly, just by existing, helping to cut down on methane and carbon dioxide release, and we're also helping to cut down on infiltration of waste into the water tables. It's also the fact that compost promotes soil health and keeps the nutrient cycles both low energy and local. Compost also promotes soil cohesion. It is an international best practice in a lot of building and road development to use compost mediums as a backfill, because it helps create very stable soil webs of fungi and other microorganisms that help prevent a lot of the runoff and stormwater contamination that can come with building and road developments. And, moreover, in the food waste pyramid, which is a pyramid that really describes the priorities of what to do with food waste. Well, first you try to get it to people who are hungry. If it's past that point, first you try to give it to animals. And if it's past that point, then you give it back to the earth. So for us, part of our local ecological sustainability is that our animals get first crack at it. We have a flock of almost 200 chickens. They're hungry all year round, and they like to eat just about anything. And so we love to feed them things, especially the stuff that comes from the commercial kitchens. So we like to say that with all the bacon and sausage and cheeseburgers that these chickens get to eat, they are certainly the happiest chickens in Monroe County. And I think the taste of the eggs might prove that. So that's the sustainable ecological side of your business. What impacts on the environment, including the soil, the water, the air, the animals, is my business having? The next leg of the sustainability tripod is about sustainable economic impacts. First and foremost, your business has to be self-sustaining. You have to project a value that matches the value of your product or service so that you can self-sustain the business and keep the business going, so that your business can do things like add value in the local economy. So we really like the composting business because it's a value multiplier in the local economy, because it reduces the input, it reduces the waste costs of some businesses while also reducing the input costs of others. So like for farmers and gardeners, people that grow your cut flowers, people that grow organic food, or even a traditional ag crops, reducing the input costs like from their fertilizer needs or even their composting needs by having a local quality source can really boost their businesses. It can allow them to grow their operation by hiring other people. Job growth is very important right now, especially in food production and ag sector. So having a lower cost input for farmers and gardeners allows them to expand their businesses, which can in turn, with more agricultural sales from expanded businesses, mean that it's lower prices for local restaurants or other local commercial kitchens, or even local restaurants to buy quality local food. So reducing input costs for farmers and gardeners lets them expand their businesses, generate and sell more food, which ultimately can lower the price point even of this highly local, high quality food. And it also, as an economic practice for the community, it reduces the strain on our conventional garbage waste stream, because some things we don't know how to recycle or compost yet. And so we need to preserve each stream for its specific purpose. And the garbage stream can't get overloaded with a bunch of food waste and organics. It's irresponsible for all of us. So it's an economic gain for all of us when we reduce strain on that system. And lastly, not only must the business support itself and hopefully add these other gains to the community, but the business has to be able to generate revenues that can support a living wage. And that's the economic component of the tripod that feeds into the third leg of the tripod, which is about sustainable social impacts. So like I said, for our primary sustainable social impact for us is we're really big believers in a living wage, especially right now with COVID. So giving employment opportunities at a living wage is something that we fight for and we take hits for because we believe in that. And that's part of our community commitment, and that's part of our value commitment to the sustainability tripod with these social impacts. So for us, we specifically focus our hiring practices on marginalized demographics and people who've been kind of left out of the sustainability story. Like for last year, we worked with an ex-offender nonprofit, getting these people closer to agriculture and closer to the community in ways that they hadn't been in years because of their experiences in prison and before. But when COVID hit, both our business and that nonprofit were super young. And so we were going through some internal reorganization stuff around the time that COVID hit. So we kind of pressed pause on that partnership for the moment and went back to our core concern of, as a woman-owned business, making sure to hire women into our workforce to make sure that we're integrated and that we're promoting these values that we really believe in. And so the young women that we were able to hire, these are people that are great community members, super plugged in, but they had really high COVID exposure work in grocery and related sectors. So being able to offer them living wage employment at a COVID-safe environment during all of this has just been a true joy for us, and just makes our team care about each other all the more and even stronger. So that's the sustainability tripod I want all the businesses to try to understand: sustainable economics, sustainable ecological impacts, and sustainable social impacts. And these three things can be tied together, and they can really help your business blossom and grow. You have happy employees, you have a product or a service that you're very proud of, and you have a community that supports you. They see what you're doing, they believe in what you're doing, they're part of the movement. That's why I like to say anybody that's doing composting right now is an earth keeper. They're already on the Green Camino team. They're already joining up with Fable Farms, because if you compost at home and you don't subscribe to our service, we're fine with that. We'll give presentations like this all day. Through the Center for Sustainable Living, we've created all sorts of booklets on home composting, composting with worms. We've given free video recorded presentations on backyard and home composting with the city and with the Mother Hubbard's Cupboard, with the Monroe County Public Library. We have a video with them as well. So for us, it's really exciting that this can be for anybody, and you don't even have to necessarily buy into our program for us to consider you as part of the team, because we just love spreading the knowledge about it, that this is something that anyone can do, anyone can be a part of. And right now especially, you know, it's dark and divided days. We need hope and transformation. We need things that can get us engaged and hands-on, and composting is something that young and old alike can enjoy. Everyone loves seeing worms wriggling around in these bins, this life that's going on, these microorganisms that you never stop and think about until you do, and it's there. You can use home composting for a homeschooling basis for like a biology segment or any other kind of science segment. You could use it, you know, if your roommates are getting bored and learning out of things to talk about, you can cultivate your whole little farm of pet worms. There's a lot of ways that anybody can get involved in composting, and it's something anyone can do. And if you don't have the time to do it at home, give us a call. We'll come help you out.
Andrea, do you have anything to add for tips for businesses and residential homes to get started on this?
Let me think.
Or any cautions?
Cautions. I guess, yeah, I'll say one thing about meat, dairy, and animal products, which is the question we get more often. People we have a list of things that we accept for composting at our facility, and people always tell me, oh, I've always been told that I should not compost meat, dairy, bones, and so on. And I think that people don't realize that we are a larger scale compost facility where we are constantly measuring the temperatures of our piles, and our piles are massive. You know, they're like sometimes 10, 12 feet tall, and they're what, maybe 15 feet? I mean, 50 feet long?
Yeah, they're
so just to clarify, what you put in a home compost is very different from,
right,
you can put more things in your compost.
So that's something that we tell people, like, if you're composting at home, that's awesome. We do not recommend that you put your meat and your animal waste, like, you know, yeah, well, animal waste is another meat, bones, dairy. We don't recommend that you put that in your compost. And so actually we do have a lot of clients who only do the drop-off service with us because it's more economical, and all they do is they put all their meat, bones, dairy in the drop-off, in our drop-off service, and then they compost all their veggies and all their green stuff in their house. So so just that, maybe in terms of caution for people who are composting at home, is to just be careful what you put in there, because A, it can get really stinky if you're composting meat and you're not doing it correctly, and B, it attracts rats and all sorts of things that people don't like in their neighborhoods, and C, it's a really good environment for bacteria that you don't want in your garden. And specifically, if you're using your own compost for your veggies in your homegrown garden, you really do not want to use a compost that is contaminated with E. coli and other bacteria, salmonella, that come from trying to compost meat and not doing it correctly.
Do we have some questions from participants? Any questions from participants? Remember to unmute yourself. It's that little microphone on the bottom left side. We'll wait a second and see if they have any questions. They'll move on to the next speaker.
Sure.
Hi, I do actually have a question, if I may. Let me get my video up here as well. Hi there, my name is Joseph Winia. I'm a resident of the city of Bloomington. I wanted to first say thank you so much for your presentation, and I really love your story and find myself on a somewhat similar endeavor actually. And I wanted to ask what your capacity for expansion is as you continue to grow compost in the community and sort of where you are in the spectrum of what you're able to handle in compost volumes right now.
Right now, the way that it's working is really the sky's the limit. We have ample space at our facility to grow what we just realized even a month ago that we could probably double or triple the amount that we bring in based on this and last year's figures, because that compost, when it cooks down, I mean, it cooks down significantly and fast, and so it ended up being much greater space saver than we had imagined. So at our site, we probably still have another, 7 years worth of growth maybe about 7 years of growth at this site before we start to reach max flow through capacity. And thankfully, we also have a friend that lives nearby that has ancestral massive acreage, and we've had some talks about what it would look like to purchase or lease some of that. If it got to the point where we were going to be making an investment into a neighboring site.
Okay. And also by chance, do you accept visitors?
With COVID going on, we have not been accepting visitors, but as soon as all this stuff starts, that's the thing that stinks, is that we were really stoked this year to start doing tours, because all of last year, we did get to do one right before this all hit.
And you love their chickens. If we usually get over there, it's fun. Other questions? Any other questions? Remember, look at the icon on the left, unmute yourself.
Thank you.
I have one last question for you, both of you. And the question is, do you have a written sustainability strategy for your company?
You know what? We don't have one written down. I think the sustainability tripod has just been kind of seared into our minds from all the work in the nonprofit sector. But that wouldn't be a bad idea to put that on paper, I think.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's move on to our next speaker. And our next speaker is Bradley Randal. Bradley Randal is the co-owner of Aver's Gourmet Pizza Pub, founded in 1995 in Bloomington, Indiana. He is a partner in Peddler's Pizza Pub, founded in 2020 in Valparaiso, Indiana. And I'm assuming he has to love pizza, right? Okay, I'm getting hungry with these conversations. Welcome, Bradley Randal.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. As Eliza said, I'm Brad Randal. I'm the co-owner of Aver's Pizza here in Bloomington. I'll start out with a little background. We opened Aver's Pizza here in Bloomington back in 1995. As originally it was a delivery and carry-out only concept. We're very successful with that. We expanded to another location on the south side of town in 2001, and then after some expansion outside of the city of Bloomington, which didn't go as well as we had hoped, we kind of pulled back into Bloomington, and in 2012 we opened a third location on Covenator Drive over by the Super Kroger there. That location, when we took it over, had a dining room in it, which was not something we were familiar with or well versed in. And in that dining room, they had set up a lunch buffet. And so when we took it over, we kind of continued the operation as they had it set up. So we ran a lunch buffet. We had table service for dinner time. And after a while, we realized that the table service at night was not as popular as we wanted it to be. Definitely wasn't as popular as the buffet was. There were some weeknights where we would have a Tuesday would come and go, and we wouldn't have a single table come in. So we decided, well, let's pivot here a little bit and expand the buffet and just do it all the time. And so that when we did that, it worked very well for us. Sales took off at night, and by the 2016, which was our last year on the Covenator location, we had increased business by 50% over what we had started in 2012 with the buffet. And so at that time, the landlord was building a new building on College Mall Road, right there, kind of in front of the Super Kroger. And they had a lot of space available, and they offered us as much as we wanted. So we decided to take about 4,500 square feet of that, which increased our capacity for our dining room and restaurant overall by about 50%. And so we opened that in 2017 and immediately saw a 50% jump in sales, and the majority of that was with the buffet. And so that's the background on where we're at. And so some of the issues with what we decided to do with the buffet, the main issue is that there is, it generates a lot of waste. There's a lot of things that go to waste in a buffet. Number one is with the food that's on the buffet, it can only stay out for so long before you have to pull it because the quality goes down over time. And even though that food is still edible, it's not of a quality that someone who had paid to dine in would want to consume. So that has to be pulled off and replaced. So that's one source of the waste. The second source is just the remnants of what people have been eating left on the table after they leave. Their food scraps. A lot of people, for some reason, eat pizza and then don't eat the crust. They leave the bones behind. Napkins, things like that, that all builds up and has to be removed, and that goes into the landfill unless you can find another use for it. So we, after a while, we realized that this is, we're generating tons of waste. Our waste management company was coming, they got to where they were coming every single day to pick up the trash. We had a pretty small dumpster there, but still that seemed really excessive to us. And we were thinking, well, there's got to be something we can do to reduce this amount of waste and be a little bit more environmentally friendly. So with the first problem with the food that was being pulled off that was still edible, we've always had a relationship with the Hoosier Hills Food Bank. They come by about 3 times a week to our other locations, pick up the pizzas that have gone to, would otherwise go to waste, because sometimes in this business, when you're delivering late night, people will call, they'll pass out, the pizza won't be able to be delivered for whatever reason, you have to bring it back. So that's perfectly edible food. So over the years, we had always donated that food to the Hoosier Hills Food Bank. And we set up, we got set up with their system where they'll give you some plastic washable tubs. You fill those up, they come out 3 times a week and take that to their facility and distribute that food as well. So that we were using that for the waste that was going on from the edible portion of the buffet. But we quickly realized that we were overwhelming what they were able to take from us. They only, like I said, they only came out 3 times a week. They only had so many plastic tubs, and they really didn't want to serve just pizza to everyone when they were getting food. So we kind of reached a cap with what they were able to do with us. So we went out and we started looking for other people that could take that food waste, donate it to a different kind of charity, different food bank, something like that. We went through about 3 or 4 different ones in searching for one that could do it on a regular basis, because our only requirement with it was we wanted someone that would come and pick it up on a daily basis, so it wouldn't get bad, wouldn't go to waste, wouldn't take up too much space. So we went out, we purchased probably about 2 dozen bus tubs and lids, and started putting all that stuff that we're pulling off into those bus tubs, separating it by meat and veggies for the people that were picking it up, so they could make sure that they were getting the right product to the right person. And so we went through it 3 or 4 different places that couldn't quite keep up with that requirement to come out on a regular basis. And so it looks like there's a lot of opportunities for volunteers out there to volunteer with some of these organizations, because it sounds like they're a little bit understaffed. But eventually we came through and we got connected with Wheeler Mission. And Wheeler Mission has a really robust volunteer system. And they had, especially one person in general with a pickup truck that would come out, and anytime we would call them, he would come out, pick up the food waste. And so they were coming out almost 7 days a week to pick up our food waste. And so through the Hoosier Hills Food Bank, I think it was in 2019, we served about, according to their records, we served about 6,000 meals through Hoosier Hills Food Bank with that food we had pulled off the buffet. Perfectly edible, but we were not able to sell it for any money in our business And then with the Wheeler mission, there was an additional, I believe, 5,000 meals that they, in just the last half of the year, once we connected with them, that they were able to distribute to people attending the mission. So at the mission, they serve a lot of pizza there, or they were before COVID struck. And so overall, I think for if we were to be open for a full year, if 2020 hadn't turned out to be kind of a disaster for the restaurant industry, we probably would have served close to 15, 16, 17,000 meals if we'd continued the buffet the way it was going. And so that was kind of the first thing we looked at, and we thought, well, we need to reduce the amount of waste that we have going out. So instead of having this food that's perfectly edible go to waste, go into the dumpster, go into the landfill, and no one's getting any use from it all, we got with Wheeler Mission, we got with the Hoosier Hills Food Bank, and we managed to find a way to reduce that leg of our problem with the buffet format. The second problem with the buffet was that, like I said, the table waste, we generated an enormous amount of table waste. And so we got with Green Camino came by and said, hey, we're interested in expanding our commercial operations. Would you be interested in kind of being, one of our first commercial setups? And we said, yeah, we'd love to do that. And so we've been working with them, got a few dumpsters out, little plastic carryalls, and then quickly realized we were filling those up faster than they could turn them over. And so we got some bigger ones out. And so we decided to get all that table waste hauled away. And so as we kind of went through this, we realized, we could probably get pretty close to being zero waste in our buffet setup zero landfill in our buffet setup if we make some changes. So some of the things that we ran into problems with the composting was like plastic straws would get in there, and that would foul the compost. Plastic souffle cups, which we had used for people to portion sauces with. Things like that were getting into the compost, and we thought, well, let's look at some opportunities or some ways to mitigate that and see if we can find a different solution for that. So the first thing we did is we switched from a standard plastic straw to what's a commercially compostable plastic straw. So it's compostable, but you can't put it in your home compost because it doesn't get hot enough. But with what Green Camino is doing, we can put that in there. Their pile is big enough, it gets warm enough, it breaks it down. And so we switched from that plastic straw to the commercially compostable plastic straw to eliminate that. That adds a little bit of expense. Each of those straws is probably about a penny more expensive than a standard straw, but it's of such a design that you really can't tell the difference between a regular straw in it and the compostable straw. And that's kind of what we were going for. We didn't want people to notice that we were doing something that was compostable like that. I've been to places that have like paper straws and such, and they just aren't the same experience, and they're a distraction from the dining experience. So we want something that would seamlessly go into the flow of the dining experience, but would also seamlessly go into the composting. And so we made that switch. The other switch we did is we found a paper souffle cup, which we substituted for the plastic ones that we were using for the dipping sauces for the breadsticks. So then at that point, basically everything being cleared from the table that wasn't going into the dish room could go into the compost. The only thing that we found that we couldn't find a solution for before COVID hit was our dinner mints, which are the little buttermint things which people love. We were trying to find one that had a compostable wrapper because we want them individually wrapped for people. And amazingly enough, there's no one creates anything like that. So there's a business opportunity out there for anyone that's interested in the mint business. So that was one solution. The other solution might have been just getting some loose ones and putting them in containers and setting them on the table for the customers. But those are some of the things we're trying to address before COVID hit, and looking at that. So as a result of that, doing the composting, we started sending between 1,500 and 2,000 pounds of dining room waste per month to Green Camino. And so for the last 4 months of 2019, that was almost 9,000 pounds of waste we diverted from the landfill into composting. And according to Green Camino, it was like a 1-ton reduction in methane emissions by doing that. So, it's like we offset the carbon dioxide emissions of about 3 households just by composting. And as from a business perspective, I feel better about what I was doing with the buffet. So as a business owner, all that waste was it just weighs on your soul. It's like, this is there's got to be something we can do about that. So we addressed that. I felt much better about owning a buffet and operating a buffet. And also, it was also a great marketing tool for us, because with the reports we would get from Green Camino, with the reports we would get from the Hoosier Hills Food Bank and Wheeler Mission, all that stuff we would make, when we put that on social media and did other kind of promotions with that, that would be the materials that would get the most comments, the most engagement from people, and we would hear the most feedback from about how much they appreciated what we were trying to do for not only clean up our business, but for the community at large, with feeding people and reducing waste. So that is my short presentation there on how we are approaching composting with Aver's Pizza and what we've been able to do so far.
I think it's incredible that you've thought that all out. And I know there are changes with COVID, but I really like what you said. It's important for our businesses to hear that it's a wonderful marketing aspect to all this, and that people did pay attention to that. And that's what people are looking for. All over. They're checking out these businesses and they want to make sure you're doing this. But that's wonderful that you're doing this. Do I have any questions from the others? Anyone else have questions? Unmute yourself.
I do actually have another question, if I may.
Sure.
First of all, thank you again very much for the presentation, Bradley, and also for taking those steps for the business. That's so good to hear, and those are such astounding quantities for just, in particular, one company to be producing and to be diverting. That's so valuable. I did want to ask if you provide any information about composting to customers to help bring those changes to outside of your business and to those who participate with your business.
I have not provided any materials, but something that we were discussing, working on as we were thinking through the composting was, especially with the pizza boxes, was trying to find a way to, we had talked to Green Camino about finding a way to kind of get the of compostable straws they'd like to get rid of. Perhaps they could get a home composting container and get that to Green Camino so that could be composted properly.
Yeah, and if I may mention, I did check out your website before the session as well, and didn't see any content about your either your business composting practices, which I think would also be beneficial to make publicly visible to people who are presently also visiting your site in abundance for online orders.
No, thank you. That's a good idea. Actually, that's probably something we should do, is put a page on there to describe what it is we're doing and how we're doing it, as opposed to just leaving it on social media, which kind of loses its presence after a while.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
And do you have a stated sustainability strategy for your company?
We do not have a stated sustainability strategy, but it's definitely something that we should be working on. And if we were to have a page, we could have something like that posted and shared with our customers.
And my question to all presenters is really, is there a challenge that you have currently that you're working on that you'd like some perspective on from those who are listening? Perspective is everything. So do you have anything that you're working on?
I don't think I have anything related to composting or waste reduction management right now that would be a question about that. I would guess if we were to do something with putting information on pizza boxes about composting them, if that would be something that people would be interested in, and we would be the right vehicle to deliver that message.
Yeah, that would be great. I think, as you mentioned, like we still have to figure out the logistics of what this would look like. But yeah, it's definitely something that we would love to.
We're also curious about the community's feedback on where else they would like us to have drop-offs, like composting drop-offs, because we have this wonderful, massive partnership with the district. We have them at both Blooming Foods locations, and we had them at faith communities before COVID. So we were thinking that post-COVID, maybe we'd expand the faith community things again, or maybe even talk to the school district. I mean, would parents find it convenient to drop off their compost if there were drop-off sites at the schools? And then you bring up issues of, like, you know, how do you keep that sanitary and all that? We've also been working with, we've also been working with Cook and Envisage Technologies before the COVID shutdowns about how to do employee rewards programs where the businesses could help subsidize like a drop-off subscription on site, so that you bring your little pail of food waste with you to work once a week, and you get the service at like a reduced cost. We were definitely thinking that with Cook. Cook Group is our biggest corporate partner, and we helped get their Ellettsville branch location zero landfill, zero waste this year. Carl Schaefer over there has been just doing amazing work for their multi.
Joseph just mentioned that the Kroger stores would be a good drop-off point. That would be a good drop-off point.
Yeah.
Lauren, do you have any questions?
No, thank you both for your presentations and especially joining us in this new format. We'll have this recorded so that anyone that wasn't able to make it today can still use this as a resource and looking.
And I'll have some concluding remarks I want to share with you. And I found this poem that I would like to share. And this poem reminds me of the magic of composting. And it's called Wild Thoughts by Chris Heater. Yellow like sunset against blue skies, orange and red the color of flames, a brilliance unmatched. As the leaves bid their farewell, surely the wisdom from so many trees is not so much a commandment, but an artful reminder to welcome change. Take heart. Even the leaves brighten at their passing, making way for winter's silence and spring's youthful return. Leaves become mulch, become compost that fortifies the soil, allowing other leaves to flourish, to become mulch, to become compost. Take heart, change is growth. So I hope this conversation has helped us grow in food waste options for both business and households. And gaining perspectives alone and in dialogue with others and action are what we need in all times. On behalf of the Monroe County Waste Management District and the City of Bloomington's Department of Economic and Sustainable Development, we thank you, Ryan, Andrea, and Bradley for your presentations. And thank you, participants. If you have further questions for the speakers, they have put their contact information in the chat box. And if anyone has suggestions for a topic or a business to present, please put it in the chat box or contact Lauren or myself. Stay tuned for more sessions starting up again in January. The next session is January 27th from noon to 1 on recycling, the basic strategy of waste reduction. And in that session, presenters will address the circular economy. A key to green business is waste reduction, repurposing, finding ways to reuse end products, and recycling. And zero waste, which we've mentioned today, is the goal. We will continue January through June. To register, email sustain@bloomington.in.gov, and please tell others. Watch for announcements on the Monroe County District's Facebook page and the city's website. Keep the green growing. People, planet, profit. Thank you all.
Thank you.